Nairobi was the forum of children. They were everywhere, creating an atmosphere of bells and music. At times, this suggested a heart-wrenching melody which seemed to come from the depth of the planet. We noticed it in Corogocho, a slum in the outskirts, a 20-minute walk on dirty, sinewy paths from the forum, where more than 120,000 people live. A Kenyan NGO staffed with Kenyan young men and women who were able to get out of the slums and get an education is now working in the settlement, dignifying its school and the nutrition of its children. They guide us on this tour from which I will never completely return. Corogocho was built on a horrific rubbish dump, the stench of which you notice a kilometer before entering its streets. Fecal waters and piles of rubbish marked the limits of the neighborhood. So much misery concentrated in such a small hell. I think of what we are not seeing, the ill, the elderly, and the vulnerable to misery in such a miserable place. Because what we do see is a festival of children who chant their welcome to us as we walk by. "How are you? How are you?" they ask in unison while they follow the camera lens as if it were Hamelin's flute. A prodigious feat indeed among this giant heap of manure is the neatness of their hair and the tidiness of their school uniforms. The school has no electricity and the classrooms are 4 square meter cubicles. There's obviously no running water, but there are children, many children, who have a right to a better life. For €3 a month, we can guarantee them an education through the age of 16. Corogocho is a brutal example of misery and a devastating indictment of the present model of development, savage and dehumanizing. Our very own hideous portrait, the portrait of Dorian Gray of our civilization. The farmers expelled from their way of life fattened the poverty belts of the big cities. I'll bet there are rats that live in greater opulence in the gutters of our first world cities.